Hi, it's Nicole with NicoleLynnay.life and bsmission.org. Thank you so much for watching. I had somebody comment on one of my videos about cheating and the art of letting go. And I really wanted to address that a little bit more. In my life, I have experienced being cheated on, actually several times. It was a pattern that was following me around. I also, and just full disclosure here, I had jumped into a relationship with somebody who was married at one point after my boyfriend died because I did not want to feel my pain. I knew it was totally wrong. It went against everything that I believed in. But I was suffering so much inside that I did it. It doesn't make it right. Just stating it for the fact that it was. However, moving out of that, of course, we stayed together for a long time. He did eventually file for a divorce, and then he ended up doing the same thing to me, right? But I really wanted to understand at this time, like, what is this that's really following me around? And what I realized was the people that he ended up cheating on me with, well, they were going through a divorce, or they were going through some sort of situation. Now, when him and I had met and hooked up, I was going through a situation. My boyfriend had died, right? So I was grieving and I was lost. And by the time that I found myself and became strong again, I wasn't fulfilling the void that he was looking for that needed to be filled, because he needed to be the savior and to fix me, okay? So we did try to work it out for like a year, and eventually I had to listen to my heart, and I was like, I'm not happy. Like, this isn't it, right? Which then eventually, and this is something that happened like 2012, beyond earlier than that in my life, but that's actually when we ended. I chose myself in 2012. And then it still seemed to be like a pattern that followed me and went into the next relationship and the next relationship. And what I realized was it was because I had to leave with love. I had to leave with love in my heart for the person that was cheating. This was the way that I actually broke free of it, was I couldn't be tied to the anger behind what they were doing. And I had to learn how to honor, love, and respect myself. Because if I didn't do it, who was going to do it for me? Right? Like, it had to be my responsibility to show up for myself. And I think a lot of times in relationships, we are looking for the other person to fill a void that is inside of us, right? To heal these aspects that maybe we had the wounds from childhood. Even though our parents did the best they know how to do, we carried some wounds. I did. I carried a lot of stuff that needed to be healed and needed to be looked at and released. And with these wounds, I also had very low self-worth for myself. If I look at the past, I'm 45 now, but if I look back at the past 45 years of my life, I can see why I chose the people that I chose and why I wasn't really loving myself. And it seemed like I was always looking for, as much as I didn't really realize it, like I was looking for someone to figure out how to love me, but it was a mission impossible because I didn't know how to love myself. I didn't know what that looked like. And that's why I say, we punish people here in this world for not knowing how to love themselves, but we don't have a lot of people to show us what that truly looks like. What is a true healthy relationship of two solid, stable people who have figured out how to heal themselves? What does that look like? What does it feel like? Okay. We think we have this idea of what it is, white picket fence. You have the house and car and all that stuff. Now, there was a point in my life where I had my house, I bought it myself, I had all these things, right? And I was miserable. I was not happy. And the reason I wasn't happy was because the missing ingredient was heal yourself, right? Love yourself. Figure out really where your hurt and your pain is. Make yourself the most important person in this world, and then allow the person to come into your life. And it's not from an ego place. It's not from an arrogant place. It's actually from the most compassionate place in your heart that you can find. And once you really grasp this idea, everything can start shifting. It's not even an idea. It's actually, well, they're saying concept right now, but once you get it, everything can start shifting. Now, I had to because of the work that I do, I had to be very honest with myself in every aspect. Somebody had once said to me that if I'm going to do this work, I couldn't be a hypocrite. And I believe in being the best at what it is that I do. And so I took it very literal. And I knew in order to help my clients, I couldn't be in a wrong relationship knowing that it wasn't right for me. Okay. So that's why I ended up leaving the last relationship that I was in. And I took years to fully integrate into my beingness who I am now. And looking back, it's almost like disheartening on how little self-worth I really had for myself. On what I thought was important, these things and all that stuff. It trumped what is truly important. I had to let go and forgive myself of my own bad behavior. I had to forgive others for theirs. I had to see that people who I thought would figure some things out, they couldn't get there from there. Their consciousness and their awareness was not high enough to know how to love me. And it was for me to also be honest with myself at what I thought I needed them to begin with. Okay? Once you are fully whole in you, you realize that the person who's coming in is like complimenting you. It's making you happier than you already are. They're not coming in to save you. They're not coming in to fix anything about you. They're coming in because they respect you and because you respect yourself. Now, if you go back to any relationship that you were in, and I do this myself, and you are really honest with yourself and you ask yourself the big question, did you see any red flags in the beginning of the relationship? Chances are you did, all right? And chances are you ignored them, all right? And then maybe it wasn't the first one. Maybe it was the second date, the third date. At some point you saw a red flag. So be honest with yourself on what it is that you saw. Because the universe shows us the red flags. And if you're not willing to listen, right? The universe says, I love you so much. Keep going down that path until you're ready to not go down that path anymore. All right? So it's not punishing you. You're actually the one who's choosing to keep treading down that path. Now, thoughts are electric, emotions are magnetic, and they create a charge. So if you say, I want to be in the most amazing relationship ever, but inside you're still holding on to the heartache, worthless, unworthy, sorrow, sadness, grief, all this stuff that's lodged in your emotional body, the universe says, I hear what she's saying, but she's going to get more of this because this is how she feels, okay? So that's why you want to heal the emotional body. You want to really clean up the mental and emotional body. So you're thinking thoughts of happy, healthy relationship, and you feel it because that's how you feel. And you would no longer accept anything that is not divine. It's not coming from the highest aspect of who you are. Now, I think a lot of us have picked up bad behaviors and we have an idea of what could be fun in a relationship and all that stuff. For me, I have no desire to play games in a relationship, right? I've worked really hard on healing myself, and if I see the red flag, I have to honor myself and honor that and express it, to the person. There's nothing wrong with doing that. In fact, I think if more of us would start doing that, instead of like, well, this is comfortable and I think I'll stay here, being comfortable doesn't equal growing, okay? It just means like you're just sitting out with this person. Well, why not? Let's be semi-happy, right? Or let's be miserable together. Or I'm trying to get happy, but you're miserable. So let me try to fix you and save you. And if anyone knows, that's like a never-ending goal for someone who hasn't figured out how to love themselves. Because if they haven't figured it out, how the fuck do you think you're going to actually figure it out for me, right? How many times in a relationship has someone like tried to do all these things and came back and been like, I feel like I can't do anything right to make you happy? Well, they're right, because it wasn't their job to do it. It wasn't their job to make you happy. It wasn't their job to do all these things. It's each individual person's responsibility to do that and to take but they're also responsible for how they show up to the other person, right? Take full accountability for how you show up, and they have to take full accountability for how they show up in the relationship. So for me, I thank every person that I was with, because I feel like they were teaching me greater levels of how to love myself and freeing me from certain behaviors and patterns that I was going in. So as far as the cheating, when it did happen again, the last relationship that I was in many years ago, I was really grateful to him in my heart, because I left, even though there was like a cheating factor that kind of came up in there, I left knowing that I wouldn't have to experience this again in a relationship, that me leaving happy and truly loving him and in the core of my core was somehow freeing me from things that I never needed to have to begin with. This is why our anger is like binding us to things that we don't want to experience. That's why it's so important to start releasing and forgiving every aspect of your life, and really looking at the different parts that need to be healing. For me, I had to do healing with my mom, healing with my dad, healing with my sister, healing with my son, healing with my friend. Like, I had all these healings of things that were coming up on my path that was like, hey, go deeper, clear this out so you can be in alignment with who you truly are and show up in the world as that person. And embody it fully. Like, this is the part of embracing your essence. Like, who are you? There was a time, and I'm just going to share this in here, when I was meditating and I said, I want to know God. And I went into meditation, and I just remember coming back down through this golden tube, being lowered down, and it was a feeling. It was like a feeling of a warm blanket that was lowering me back down, of like peace and tranquility, and like just this most unconditional love that I had never felt on this earth ever, right? And it was just like, that's where I come from. Like, that is the true reality. That is the heaven on earth, right? Like, that's it. And having that, and it was like intimacy. It was just it was a feeling, the best way I can describe it. But having that let me know what we really can experience here if each person started looking at where they're hurt, where their wounds are, and how we can actually show up in the world as that. Because I experienced that here in the now in my meditation, right? So it's possible. It's already here. I didn't have to die to have that. But I did have to heal to have that experience. I did have to let go of the blaming, the guilt, the shame. I had to let go of like all those things and forgive myself and the other people to get to that space. So it's important just to look at yourself and be honest with yourself and let yourself off the hook on things that didn't go right. But you truly want to do it from your heart and in that space. And when you do that, things in the external world will eventually start to shift. It might take some time because you went so many years on a negative thought loop or having these emotional wounds that were in your emotional body that needed to be healed. But the more committed you are to your own self-healing, the more you are like embodying your light. Because you're the lighthouse. It's not a surface level thing. It is not. And this is the part with the New Age community. A lot of us want to say rainbows and sunshine and sprinkly and all that stuff, right? Which is great, but it's very solid because it's my foundation. And I am not here to hide anything. I couldn't hide it from myself because the universe wouldn't let me. It kept bringing stuff around again, not to punish me, but for me to heal it. Because the only time I know when there's something that needs to be healed is when I'm triggered. And I would just thank every person who was triggering me so I could actually release this. And it was a process. So if you're in a relationship right now and it doesn't feel right or you're leaving it, trust that you're moving into the right direction. Start asking yourself the questions of what do you want your life to look like? What would a healthy relationship feel like? what would, these different qualities in my life, what would that be? Being with this person, how would I want to show up in the relationship with this person? A big question to even ask yourself is, if, like, for men, a lot of times they've said, like, women are so complicated, but if you even went with this one little principle, how would these actions make this person feel? And this is for both across the board, right? How would what I'm doing right now make the other person feel? And how would I feel if this person did it to me? Just asking that question alone and moving through the world, it's like the golden rule. Do unto others as you'd want done unto you, right? If it wouldn't make you feel good, then don't do it to somebody else. Really think about the other person as much as you're thinking about yourself. And if that's your imbalance, you think about everybody else before you, then start thinking about yourself first. See, for me, it's an equal. The self and the other are equally as important. There isn't one that's more important. And so the more that I learn to love me, I can show up different for other people now. I get to be like this, the bright light, but that's solid. That's not being knocked over anymore. I also look at the red flags of anyone who's entering my space. If the universe is showing me them, it's for me to discern, is this what I want in my life? Because what I'm looking for is someone who matches me emotionally, mentally, physically, and spiritually. All four. I'm looking for that whole gamut, okay? And when you find that, you're never going to let that go, because that's the unstoppable force that you've been looking for. So if you're only getting someone who's matching you, maybe just emotionally or maybe just physically, right? It's probably going to feel like it's still not enough, because it's not meeting all of your needs. So every person has to go through this themselves, but your key to freedom is being honest with yourself all across the board, letting everyone else off the hook, thanking them for showing you what it is you want and what it is that you don't want. Again, the contrast. If you didn't have the contrast, how would you know? I've experienced enough of the contrast. I know what it is that I want, and it's not stuff that I experienced in the past, which means I had to love and honor me to get there. So I hope some of these pointers in this video helps you. Thank you to the person who wrote the comment. Please comment below if you watch this, if it helps, if you have more questions. All right, you can find me at bsmission.org or NicoleLynnay.life. I am also taking clients, so send me an email and we can get started. All right, talk to you later.